What is an Incan narrative quipu, and how did it tell stories? Imagine a system of knots and strings that can hold stories, history, and numbers all in one place. That is what the Incan civilization used, called the quipu. Unlike our alphabet or writing, the quipu was a three-dimensional tool made of chords and knots. It was like a tactile storybook that you could hold in your hands. The main chord hung from a stick or a piece of wood, and from it, many colored strings dangled. Each of these strings had knots tied at different points, and the type, position, and color of the knots could mean different things. Some quipus were used just for counting things like population numbers, crop yields, or taxes. But others were more complex and told stories about ancestors, historical events, or cultural tales. These narrative quipus were like ancient storyboards, with knots acting as symbols or clues. The Inca had specially trained people called quipucamayocs who could read these knots and interpret the stories they told. They could remember and recount details about family history, important battles, or religious ceremonies just by examining the knots and strings. This method of storytelling was very clever because it worked well for an empire that stretched across mountains, deserts, and jungles. The Inca did not have a written language like we think of today. Instead, they created this physical, portable system that could be easily carried and stored. It was a way to keep records and pass down stories without needing paper or ink. The colors of the strings added another layer of meaning, helping to distinguish different types of information or stories. So, in a way, the Incan quipu was a kind of ancient storytelling device. It combined numbers with symbols, knots with colors, and chords with meaning. The story was not just told through words but through the arrangement and tying of knots. These knots could encode a narrative, a history, or a cultural tradition. The quipu was a smart and flexible way for the Inca to keep their history alive and pass it on through generations. It shows how ancient civilizations found unique ways to communicate and record their world, even without a traditional alphabet or writing system.